The hidden cost of emotional desperation and the power of grounded presence. The one behavior that destroys attraction, connection, and respect, and the identity level shift that replaces it with magnetic, unshakable presence. You're standing in front of someone you care deeply about. Maybe it's a person you love. Maybe it's someone you've been trying to win back. Maybe it's a friendship you've been pouring yourself into, a professional relationship you've been nurturing for months, and in this moment, you can feel it. You can feel them pulling back. You can feel the distance growing like a fog rolling in between you and everything you want. And here's what destroys you. You don't understand why. You've been there for them. You've made yourself available. You've checked in, followed up, adjusted yourself, bent yourself, shaped yourself to fit whatever mold you thought they needed from you. You have given more than you've ever given anyone. And yet, the more you give, the further they drift. You've done everything right. Or at least, that's what you tell yourself. But there is one mistake, one single, silent, devastating mistake that you may be making right now. And it is not cruelty. It is not coldness. It is not a lack of love or effort or intention. It is desperation. Not the loud, obvious desperation that people can easily identify in themselves. No, this is the quiet kind. The sophisticated kind. The kind that disguises itself as love, as loyalty, as devotion. But underneath the surface, it carries the unmistakable scent of someone who has made another person responsible for their own emotional survival. And people feel that, even when they can't name it. There is a paradox at the center of every relationship that has ever collapsed under the weight of too much need. The more desperately you pursue someone's approval, the more rapidly you destroy the very thing that made them want you in the first place. The version of you that they were drawn to. That person was self-contained. That person had edges. That person had a life that didn't revolve entirely around the orbit of someone else's validation. That person was interesting because that person was interested in themselves. And somewhere along the way, you traded that person in. You traded your groundedness for accessibility. You traded your mystery for transparency. You traded your boundaries for the illusion of closeness. And what you got in return was not closeness. It was distance, dressed up as your own generosity. This is the wake-up call, not because you are broken, not because you are unworthy of love or connection or everything you're reaching for, but because the strategy you are using, the strategy of giving more, being more available, shrinking yourself more, is fundamentally, scientifically, psychologically working against you. The life and the relationships you want are on the other side of something most people spend their entire lives running from. And that thing is this, the terrifying, liberating, absolute necessity of being whole on your own. Stay with me, because what I'm about to walk you through is going to change the way you move through every relationship for the rest of your life. Let's get something clear from the very beginning. What we are talking about here is not a dating trick. It is not a manipulation strategy. It is not about playing games or pretending to be unavailable to manufacture interest. What we are talking about is one of the most well-documented, deeply researched phenomena in human psychology, the science of what actually creates lasting attraction, respect, and genuine emotional connection between people. And it begins with a concept called attachment theory, developed by British psychologist John Bowlby and later expanded by researchers like Mary Ainsworth. Attachment theory tells us that the way we bond with others as adults is profoundly shaped by our earliest experiences of safety, consistency, and emotional availability. But here's what the research reveals that most people never learned. People with what is called an anxious attachment style. People who have learned to equate love with uncertainty, to interpret silence as abandonment, to read every unanswered message as rejection. These people engage in behaviors that create the very outcome they fear most. The anxiously attached person reaches harder when someone pulls back. They text again before receiving a reply. They over-explain. They apologize for things that don't require apology. They make themselves smaller, more agreeable, more pliable, all in the unconscious belief that if they can just remove every possible reason for someone to leave, that person will stay. but what the nervous system of another person actually reads in that behavior. Is this person is not safe to attach to because they are not attached to themselves. The second concept you need to understand is what psychologist Carol Dweck identified in her landmark research on growth mindset and its deeply relevant counterpart in the relational world. Dweck's work demonstrated that individuals who believe their qualities are fixed, that they are fundamentally lacking in some way, respond to challenges with avoidance, withdrawal, and emotional collapse. When a relationship hits friction, the fixed mindset person interprets that friction as evidence of their own unworthiness. And so they compensate, they people please, they perform, they contort. But the person who has internalized a growth orientation, who understands that discomfort is data, not verdict, that person responds to relational tension with curiosity and groundedness rather than panic. And that groundedness is magnetically attractive. The third concept, perhaps the most important of all, is what neuroscientists call emotional regulation and the window of tolerance. Research in effective neuroscience, including work by Dr. Daniel Siegel, shows that when we are emotionally dysregulated, when our nervous system is in a state of high alert, flooding us with anxiety about a relationship, our behavior becomes reactive, frantic, and ultimately repelling. We lose access to our prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, warmth, and authentic connection. We operate from our survival brain, and nobody feels genuinely drawn to someone who is operating from pure survival instinct in the context of human relationship. The person who pushes others away is not the person who is unkind. It is the person whose nervous system has learned to treat potential loss as an existential emergency. And in treating every moment of distance as a crisis, they create the crisis they feared. Here is what all three of these concepts point to. The most attractive quality a human being can possess is not physical beauty, not wealth, not status. It is regulated, grounded, self-sufficient presence. The person who can sit with uncertainty without collapsing. The person who can give without losing themselves. The person who can love without surrendering their identity to that love. That is the person people stay for. That is the person people come back to. That is the person you are capable of becoming right now. Something in his private journals, words he never intended for public consumption, that have survived 2,000 years because of how devastatingly true they remain. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But here is the part of that truth that stings. Because it means that every time you have tried to control how someone feels about you, every time you have bent yourself out of shape to prevent someone from leaving, every time you have made your emotional stability contingent on another person's behavior, you have been surrendering the only power you actually possess, the power over yourself. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps and went on to write Man's Search for Meaning, articulated something that belongs at the center of every conversation about human behavior and human relationship. He wrote that between stimulus and response, and in that space lies our freedom, our growth, our identity. The desperate person has collapsed that space entirely. For them, the stimulus, the unanswered message, the cancelled plan, the perceived cooling of affection arrives, and the response is immediate, automatic, and self-destructive. There is no space. There is no pause. There is only the panic reaching towards something that, in that moment, always slips further away. And the cost of this pattern is not just one relationship. The cost is architectural. It shapes your entire self-concept. It tells you again and again, at the level of lived experience, that you are someone who needs to be needed in order to feel real. That you are someone who requires external validation in order to believe in your own value. And over time, that belief becomes the lens through which you see every interaction, every silence, every moment of natural relational distance, which is a normal, healthy, necessary part of every human connection. Here is the existential weight of this mistake, and I want you to feel it fully. The regret of the unlived life is not just about careers or ambitions or unchecked items on a bucket list. The most devastating unlived life is the one in which you never became someone who could simply be, without needing someone else to confirm that your being was enough. How many versions of yourself have you abandoned in the pursuit of being lovable? How many opinions have you swallowed? How many boundaries have you dissolved? How many mornings have you woken up wondering what you did wrong, when the only thing you did wrong was stop showing up as yourself? The fear of losing someone is real. The grief of distance is real, but the fear of failure, of losing the relationship, of being rejected, is never as costly as the life you build when you let that fear make all your decisions. Because a relationship built on your own self-erasure is not a relationship, it is a performance. And no one, not even the person you are performing for, can love a performance the way they can love a person. The moment you stop performing and start being is the moment everything changes. Now we get to the part that matters most, because everything I've said until this point is only as valuable as the action it produces. So let's build the system, the daily practices, the mental architecture, the identity-level disciplines that transform you from someone who pushes people away through desperation into someone whose presence is so grounded, so real, so whole, that people are naturally drawn toward you. Before you check your phone, before you open any application, before you see if they've replied, you must spend at least 15 minutes doing something that belongs entirely to you. Journaling, meditation, movement, reading, something that signals to your nervous system, before the day has even begun, I exist independently of anyone else's response to me. This is not a productivity hack. This is an identity statement. It tells your brain, at the most foundational level, that your morning, and therefore your day, and therefore your life, is yours first. James Clear in Atomic Habits articulates a principle that changes everything. Behavior follows identity. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. So the question is not, how do I stop being desperate? The question is, who am I at my core? Begin writing, physically writing, statements of identity that are true and that align with the person you are becoming. Not affirmations floating in the air, identity declarations grounded in action. I am someone who maintains my sense of self in every relationship. I am someone who gives freely without losing myself. Write them, read them. Let them rewire the operating system beneath your behavior. One of the most insidious roots of relational desperation is an empty life. When one relationship, or one person, becomes the sole source of meaning, excitement, and joy in your existence, the emotional weight that you place on that connection becomes unsustainable for any human being to carry. The antidote is ruthless intentionality about the richness of your own life. Pursue work that challenges you. Cultivate friendships that feed you. Develop skills that excite you. Not to make anyone jealous, not as a tactic, but because a person who is genuinely living, who has things they care about, places they're going, things they're building, radiates an energy that is fundamentally different from someone who is waiting. People are drawn to people who are going somewhere. In every moment of relational anxiety, when the silence stretches, when they cancel, when the warmth seems to have cooled, you must build into your behavioral architecture a mandatory pause. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, before you send the follow-up message, before you make the extra call, before you do anything that comes from the panicked part of your nervous system. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to do coming from love and generosity, or from fear and the need to control an outcome? This single practice, this one pause, will save more relationships than any other single behavior I could give you. Here is something that will reshape the way you understand every relationship you have ever been in. Boundaries are not walls. They are not coldness. They are not rejection. A boundary is the clearest possible signal you can send to another person about who you are and what you are worth. When you have no boundaries, when you are endlessly available, endlessly adjustable, endlessly accommodating, you are not making yourself more lovable. You are making yourself invisible. You are telling the other person there is no real person here, only a mirror for your needs. Real people, fully alive, self-respecting people, have edges. They say no sometimes, They have things they won't compromise, and that defines them. It makes them real. Practice saying no to one thing this week that you would normally say yes to out of fear of disappointing someone. Notice what happens to your self-respect. Notice what happens to how others see you. The desperate person measures the success of every interaction by whether it produced the desired response from the other person. Did they reply warmly? Did they seem pleased? Did they stay? The grounded person measures success by an entirely different standard. Was I authentic? Did I show up as myself? Did I act in alignment with my own values? When you shift the metric from their reaction to your integrity, something profound happens. You become unshakable. Because the one variable you can always control, always, is who you choose to be. And when who you choose to be is someone you respect, someone you genuinely admire, then no silence, no distance, no period of uncertainty can strip you of the thing that matters most: your relationship with yourself. I want you to stop for a moment, right now, wherever you are, whatever you're carrying into this moment, whatever relationship is weighing on you, whatever silence you've been staring at, whatever version of yourself you've been shrinking into to make someone else comfortable. I want you to feel the full weight of this decision, because that is what this is. This is not information. This is a decision. You can leave this video and go back to the same patterns. You can keep reaching, keep shrinking, keep making yourself smaller in the hope that one day, the person, the connection, the love you are longing for will finally recognize your sacrifice and stay. You can do that. That path is available to you. Or you can make a different decision right now. In this moment, you can decide that you are done building your identity around someone else's approval. You can decide that the most important relationship you will ever have is the relationship you have with yourself. You can decide that from this day forward, you will be the kind of person who loves fully without losing themselves, who gives generously without running empty, who is so complete, so alive, so genuinely present in their own existence that whoever walks into your life will feel the warmth of someone who has something real to offer. Here is your commitment. 3 things. Right now, say it out loud right now, wherever you are. I am a complete, whole, self-sufficient person. I bring my full self to every relationship I enter. I do not need anyone's approval to know my own worth. Mean it. Even if it doesn't feel true yet. Especially if it doesn't feel true yet. This is how identity changes, not by waiting until you feel it, but by declaring it until your behavior catches up. For the next 30 days, every single morning, before you check your phone, you will spend 15 minutes in your morning sovereignty practice. You will write one sentence that affirms who you are becoming. You will do one thing that day that belongs entirely to you, not for anyone else, for you. 30 days. That is all it takes to begin rewiring the architecture of your self-concept. Tell someone, one person you trust, what you are working on, not for validation, for accountability. Because the decisions we make in private are the ones we most easily unmake in private. Bring someone into this commitment. Let them witness the version of you that is emerging. There is a quote that I want to leave you with, not because it is comfortable, but because it is true. The goal is not to be perfect, but to be relentless. Relentless in your self-respect. Relentless in your commitment to showing up as yourself. Relentless in the daily choice to be full, not to be empty and searching. The people who are meant to walk alongside you in this life will not be pushed away by your wholeness. They will be drawn to it. They will be held by it. The right connections, the real ones, the lasting ones, the ones that actually nourish you, do not require your self-erasure. They require your presence, your full, grounded, unapologetic, self-respecting presence. You have been trying so hard to hold on. What would happen if, instead, you chose to stand up, that version of you? The one who is standing, not grasping, that is who you are always capable of being. That is who you are becoming, starting now. If this reached something real inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because of numbers or algorithms, but because the person in your life who is grasping, who is shrinking, who is desperately reaching for something that keeps moving further away. They deserve this truth just as much as you did 5 minutes ago. This is your moment. Don't let it pass.